二场比赛。那刚刚呢，我们在第一场比赛的时候看到呢，这个 Bonnie Harper 不愧呢是 IQ 199的博士，真的呢打出了很多呢超乎我们常人理解的牌，非常的可以说是一个惊喜连连啦。那接下来呢，这个比赛呢也会决选出一位即将要对上 Bonnie Harper 的选手，那究竟会是谁出现呢？让我们邀请他们出场。The next match is going to be the second match of the quarterfinals, and who is going to the semifinals. 所以呢，其实呢，我们也是非常的期待，究竟谁可以出现？因为一位呢是这个美国队长，而另外一位呢，可以说是怎么讲，一路从这个败部复活，走爬上来了。而且呢，在昨天的这比赛当中呢，竟然也是呢把我们的罗杰给打回了这个。不能说是回家，但是呢，真的是很可惜的离开了我们的世界舞台。所以呢，接下来到我们今天的最后一场比赛，都请大家千万的不要错过喽。好，那紧接着呢，下一场比赛要开始了，大家准备好要看比赛了吗？今天呢是我们的这个冠军总决赛，那最后一场呢将是我们今天的第7场。那在这之前呢，会有我们的4强以及我们的这个决赛，到最后的冠军总决赛，每一场都是非常的精彩刺激，请大家锁定我们的比赛，让我们这个选手可以好好加油打气。听说呢，昨天线上的那个总收看人数已经有超过1亿的人，1亿的玩家朋友们。所以呢，今天呢，希望呢可以再次的冲破纪录咯。好，紧接着比赛就要开始，让我们来欢迎我们的选手出场。Next match is going to be the second match of quarterfinals. Let's welcome justsaiyan and Viper. Okay, gentlemen, please come to the center of the stage. This way, please. Please shake your hands. Feel good? Good luck to you, and please be seated.
I definitely felt like I had a good chance of making it out of groups, but I always imagined that I'd have to go through the losers bracket. But you know, the set against Hunter Ace went pretty well, went my way overall. And so Hunter Ace and I have played about 3 times throughout the year, and every time was in the top 8 of a tournament. We met in top 4s, and Hunter Ace beat me, and he went on to win both of those tournaments. And then the one time I beat him in last year's standing is the time I won Montreal. So really, it's kind of like Hunter Ace and I are each other's roadblocks, and every time we've been able to beat the other guy, we've went on to win the whole thing. So it's probably a good sign that I won this one, right? And I expect him to do well, to get through groups, and hopefully we see each other again. I want to play as best as I possibly can, and everything else just kind of comes afterwards.
It's simply just an amazing feeling, I guess. There's not much more to say. I'm just like really happy to make it out. Don't think too much about the crowd, or like, is everyone gonna laugh me? Is everybody gonna hate me? I don't know. I just try to play towards my best, and then I feel like no one can be mad at me if I just do well, if I just play the cards given right. I try to like sleep well, try to eat well, try to like drink water, like just the super basic things, and then I go into the games and I think, okay, I'm just gonna do well. It's not that hard. You've done this before. You know what to do, and just like keep on, try to focus.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hearthstone World Championship. It's time for quarterfinal 2 here on the final day of competition. And we're going to crown a champion today. I'm TJ, joined by the Admiral. That's Admirable.
Yo.
And it's Viper versus justsaiyan here in this quarterfinals, vying for a spot in those semis later on in the afternoon.
Yeah, 2 pretty dominant players over the course of the year as far as the competitive scene is concerned. You know, Saiyan traveled a lot more for tour stops, I would say, than Viper did. But, you know, the time that Viper spent traveling to tour stops, he did exceptional at the ones that he was at. And there was something that Saiyan said in the interview that I really wanted to touch on. And he mentioned the performances versus Hunter Ace and how they seem to be each other's roadblocks.
Yep.
He mentioned this one, he beat Hunter Ace, so that's a good sign for him. The difference is Hunter Ace isn't out of the tournament just yet. And the next time they could possibly face each other is going to be in the finals of the tournament. So you got over the first part of the roadblock, but do you get over the second part of the roadblock? That's an interesting point to me.
And would be super fitting to have a Saiyan versus Hunter Ace finals and have that come down to the two top performers from essentially the two top performing regions of the year. But we'll get to that later on down the road if it's a possibility. Just Saying has to focus on this match, which is against Viper. And Viper has to be feeling pretty good because one of his practice partners, a player who his decks are very, very similar in Bunny Hopper, just booked a spot in the semifinals. Now, he would be waiting to face Viper if Viper were to win this series, but they both said that they would feel pretty good if they ended up having to eliminate one another in the tournament. So overall, a very successful practice group we've seen there.
Yeah, and it certainly would be an exceptional performance for that, where both of you bring, close to identical lineups to the field and then get going from there. The story of this particular match to me, though, is that it's Just Saying playing with Warrior with the intent of, the aggressive rogue bans. It looked like in a lot of situations, or I'm sorry, the aggressive, Warrior bans and rogue bans perhaps in this one, but Viper's lineup throws everything for a twist. It's one of the non-Warrior lineups in there that really changes the dynamic of the playing field. So for Just Saying in this one, he chooses to actually ban out Hunter away from Viper, and I think that's likely because of how it will perform versus Just Saying's Warrior and Shaman deck, both of those being control. And the Warrior deck from Just Saying is a bit of a soft target from the lineup for Viper. It's not really a hard target. They just wanted decks that were pretty strong against the field. And I think that their thinking was spot on, which is there's going to be people who are banning Rogue, there's going to be people who are banning Warrior. If you're not banning Rogue, you're expecting aggro. Let's bring Miracle Rogue. If you want to ban Warrior, we don't even have it.
Yeah.
And that's how they ended up on the lineup they did. And I think that's such a wonderful way to take that next level thinking and get going with it. And so here, with both players having Zoo in their lineups, I feel like these are the two critical decks for each of them.
Absolutely. And, Just Saying expecting the Rogue ban, that's why he banned away the Hunter deck to take away kind of that best matchup. But it just seems like so many matchups over the past 2 days have come down to who can take a win with Zoo Warlock. It just seems like a deck that, even on ladder, is starting to fall in popularity. It's starting to fall in win rate. It's a deck that's very aggressive, can life tap and beat badly refined decks. And even though these players submitted a week ago and their decks aren't super refined, this is still the World Championship, and these players practice more than any other player on ladder. I can guarantee you that.
Oh boy, I did not want to talk about this early.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about it from a completely objective point of view.
Okay, that's the worst draw in Viper's deck.
Against other Zoo Warlocks, yes. The only way this card, Archvillain Rafam, can be good is if both players are trading back and forth all game long, and it goes into turn 7 with a stalemated board.
And that happens sometimes.
It does.
The nature of even matched aggressive decks is that your cards tend to go even in this one. But Saiyan has opened up with the type of opener that Dream Zoo mirrors are made of. The bot lane duo, the attack and the support. That Flame Imp is untouchable at the moment. And Saiyan's got 3 1-drops in hand to make sure he can keep pressing that issue. So for Viper, he pretty much has to go full steam ahead, run minions into the board, and hope that this works out. For Saiyan, meanwhile, he gets to begin pulling ahead here and dictating the trades. And so in this spot, it's easy to look at Flame Imp and maybe want to push that face. Wouldn't disagree with it, but that Voidwalker's certainly trading off, and you're adding 2 more 1-cost cards to this. So the issue with not trading the Direwolf is that Viper then gets to poke the 1/1s that you add to the board. What does that trade-off actually mean in the grand scheme of things? Because he also has Evil Genius in hand. This turn for Saiyan is very critical. The next turn for Viper is very critical. He needs to draw minions to add to Magic Carpet. So instead, Saiyan's going to trade off the Direwolf Alpha. And I think there's a consideration for him of actually putting the Voidwalker face. The main reason not to is because of Evil Genius. He wants to avoid that happening, and so I don't blame him for making a trade here. Viper, meanwhile, gets a good 1-drop thumb.
Yeah, that's a great 1-drop because he could even tap here, set up the Witchwood Imp, and then go for a 1-drop and try and make a swing turn with Magic Carpet. The problem with that is Just Saying also has a perfect Magic Carpet turn next turn if Viper has a weak turn this turn.
Yeah, I think for Viper, he's got to risk the Magic Carpet.
Absolutely.
And I think he gets a bit of a tell here when Saiyan doesn't use Direwolf Alpha last turn to trade up the the Voidwalker that was there into the Direwolf, and then value trade over the Argent Squire with the Flame Imp. That would have been a vastly superior turn. So Viper pretty rested assured that Saiyan doesn't have Direwolf Alpha, which limits it to Abusive Sergeant or a pretty ugly-looking Soulfire.
Ooh, Kobold Lackey.
Wow. Big pickup. That means the carpet's not sticking around, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And Saiyan, with Sea Giant in hand, plus the Faceless Lackey making the additional minion, this is now the hand that dreams are made of for Saiyan continued.
Yeah. Also, the Goblin Rush Lackey would have been perfectly fine because we could have rushed the Evil.
Well, hang on. Another carpet drawn for Viper, and that is huge. That's going to be a 1/8 Magic carpet with the Flame Imp or with the Evil Genius down.
And there are some key cards in Viper's deck that can unlock this. One, just picking up a 1-drop off the top plus a tap into a 1-drop. Second, Solarium into a sequence of 1-drops would be massive for Viper going into the next turn, because the only thing that answers his Magic Carpet would be a Soulfire from Just Saiyan, which he only has 1 copy of in the deck.
Well, Knife Juggler can get some work done as well. I mean,
it still can't kill the Magic Carpet.
It's true, but Saiyan,
unless he gets a Rush minion or a Charge minion from the Faceless Lackey.
Correct.
Which is only Hench Clan Steed,
Bluegill Murloc.
Steed, the Bluegill Warrior.
Murloc. That's the Warrior. Bluegill Warrior, right?
The Bluegill Warrior and
Direwolf
the Hench
Alpha
Clan
with positioning? Can you do any? No, you can't do Direwolf Alpha positioning things. Or can you? If the Faceless goes to the far left side, Direwolf Alpha would spawn next to the Flame Imp, and then it would shift the Kobold over. So even perfect positioning. I'll tell you what, though, you'll take a 3-2.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, you'll take anything. It's about pushing damage, setting up for the Sea Giant.
This is a tough question, though. In my head for Saiyan, because there's no Sea Giant in Viper's deck, I am much more likely to push the damage in this spot, because Viper needs to make multiple trades on board as is. So I think the damage could be a point of relevance, and you also want to preserve as many minions as possible so that Sea Giant is as powerful as it can be. I think there's a lot of merit for Saiyan to simply push the damage here and call it a day.
Yeah. The thing he's thinking about here is, can Viper pick up enough 1-drops to trade off my board and protect his Magic Carpet? That's what he's thinking. He's thinking, if I don't kill the Magic Carpet now, will I have an opportunity next turn? And the answer is a pretty resounding yes.
Big turn. Not a good draw, though. Possibly the worst draw in the deck for Viper. He is drawn, at this stage, I think the 3 lowest value cards. He would need something like Scarabeg for Grim Rally to be any potency right now. And he has 2 of them at that, 2 Grim Rallies, and the Arc Villain Rafam cannot come down for 2 more turns.
So I'm thinking his win condition right now, if Just Saiyan just doesn't kill him, is play Archon and Rafam, get Princess Talanji, and Ziliax. That's...
Yeah, it's going to take something nuts.
It's going to take something ridiculous.
The thing about it is the game might end up ending before that point is the issue.
Yeah.
Like, Sea Giant is almost certainly coming down this turn, and Saiyan very interested, I think, now in taking out the Magic Carpet with Flame Imp. Five mana, 8/8. Just a big old thing. Flame Imp, not good.
Nope.
Argent Squire, not good.
11 damage.
Rafam on deck next turn as well, but there's a Sea Giant in play. The Rafam gets pushed over immediately, and Saiyan is going to have 4 mana worth of development available after this life tap. 2 Direwolf Alphas. 2 of them. Plural, S. Bad news for Viper.
And he's gonna, oh, that's just lethal. The double Direwolf Alpha. Because he had 4 minions, he was able to double dip on the Direwolf Alpha. Which means that Saiyan, a very quick victory in game 1, and we talked about it. The Zoo Warlock is the most important win, I believe, for both these players' lineups.
Right. And the reason that Viper has Arc Villain Rafam in the deck is because without a Warrior ban in the lineup, he wanted a deck that was just generically pretty strong against the field. The Warrior matchup being pretty abysmal, he wanted a desperation measure in the matchup and included Arc Villain Rafam. But in Zoo Mirror matches, that card is almost, in its purest sense, a liability.
Yeah.
It was drawn early on, and I'm not sure a card would have changed the situation. You know, perhaps if it's Soulfire, something get done, but there's already 2 Soulfires in the deck. So what does Arcville and Rafam even become in that situation? There are no Sea Giants in Viper's deck. That's a big talking point.
Yep.
But Sea Giants certainly wouldn't have helped him in that spot.
Nope.
Looks to me like in that situation that the deck is built in totality to consider the fact that Warrior's not being banned. You have the emergency measure, and as a result, you give up some kind of weird situations when you just happen to have that dead card in your hand.
Yeah, and I completely understand his reasoning, because with an unrefined meta, with a non-solved meta, it's often better to have a well-rounded lineup as opposed to a lineup that's trying to target something specific. And I think Roger's a great point. Roger came into this tournament trying to specifically target Warrior, but with the limited amount of practice, he couldn't find enough decks that beat Warrior consistently enough to make it out of the group stage.
Consistently enough and still have game against other decks.
Exactly, and if he was given one more week and had maybe settled on Mechathune Warrior instead of the Control Warrior, Bomb-style Warrior that he had, he may have been able to make it out of groups. And I think Viper considered all that and said, I'm going to bring the decks that I think are the most well-rounded, and I'm going to try and tech those to beat the field on average. And Archville and Rafam does give you extra percentage points in Warrior matchups. And when you're not banning the deck and expecting a lot of players to bring Warrior, it's a necessary tech inclusion. So even though we've talked about it so much this weekend, in the grand scheme of things, I may get crucified for this. I agree with his choice to put Archville and Rafam in his deck, considering his overall strategy. Now, it may not work out for the tournament. It may overall be a bad decision, but given all of the information we know, good choice.
I'm in a different spot. I see the reasoning behind it. I think it's good reasoning. I think that it's not too difficult, in my opinion, to find something that is superior in the measure. But, it is what it is. Viper's the one who's out of groups. The non-Warrior banned lineups have been doing extremely well in the event. All of them seem to have made it through, sans Roger in that regard.
Yeah, every mage made it through the group stage except one, and that was only because it was a group with 3 mages.
Yeah.
And one of them couldn't make it through groups.
And so looking at this opening hand, last time I saw Viper play against Warrior with this Zoo deck, it was not a story of, being at a disadvantage. It was not a story of Arcville and Rafam. It was he got off to a good start, he attacked a lot, dealt a ton of damage, and then delivered lethal damage.
And this is the hand that you're going to do that with.
Oh, yeah. The Scarab Egg, Grim Rally, Solarium to boot, the Dream Opener that Saiyan just had. This is nuts for Viper, and Just Saiyan, I think, is going to be in some real trouble in this game. He's got Ziliax, he's got Brawl, he's got the Weapons Project Shield Slam. He's going to need something else because this is going to start adding up quick.
Yep. The problem becomes in that mid to late stages of the game where you're trying to stabilize, Dr. Boom becomes a crucial draw.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to rush your mechs every turn and get the value of that. If you're only gaining 2 armor and your mechs don't have rush and you're just playing a thing every turn.
What did you say was a crucial draw?
Okay, well,
so
it's not a crucial draw right now.
Here's the thing for me. Viper has a lot of draws right now that are super powerful, and Saiyan expending the Shield Slam here to mitigate the impact of Grim Rally takes away a lot of that potential for Viper. If this board got left up, if Saiyan just chooses to armor up, not use the Shield Slam there, what that means is if Viper draws Knife Juggler, if he draws Evil Genius in that spot, both of those open up opportunities for the Scarab Egg to get a payoff and for Grim Rally to have impact. Those are both nightmare situations for Saiyan. He simply delayed that. He now has Brawl and Ziliax. His goal is to simply get to that Dr. Boom Mad Genius, and with or without that draw, Saiyan would have been making a play like this.
Yep.
Absolutely great recognition.
Still not out of the woods yet, as we can see. Still the opportunity of Viper to have massive turns. Knife Juggler picked up. That means he's got a decent amount of burst damage with Knife Juggler plus Grim Rally. Even if that board's dealt with, he has Solarium to have another reload.
Imagine this is a tempo Omega Devastator here for Saiyan.
Absolutely.
You want to put your opponent in a position where they cannot go halfway on the Brawl.
Yep.
And because you have Ziliax in hand, you are free to just play for board, tank some damage, and wait until you need to Brawl and have Ziliax to refill the life total. Here, Saiyan, I think, is looking to very aggressively leverage that life total and get some work done.
All right, well, the possibility for 4 juggles here.
Yeah, we'll be curious to see how Viper ends up taking this turn. If he chooses to clear off Omega Devastator, it actually sets up for Brawl pretty darn well.
Yeah.
So I think Viper has to look for a way around this. And if there is no clear or reasonable way around it, probably going to shut his eyes and go in.
Yeah, and honestly, we talked about it backstage a lot. You know, we have a lot of debates in our talent room about optimal lines of play. We watch every other match, and honestly, we came to the conclusion that the optimal way to play Zoo against pretty much anything is just to shut your eyes and hope they don't have it.
Yeah.
Now, there are some exceptions, but they're very specific. When you will have lethal if you play around a very specific card combination. Obviously, you're going to do that. But most of the time in the early game, shut your eyes, pretend they don't have it, and make the best play every turn. Play your cards so they're in play. That's how I mean.
It's the inherent nature of an aggro deck, is that it's meant to be very consistent and do the same thing over and over again. You rely on your opponent's failure rate of having stuff like Brawl or having Warpath to really get you there. They're not going to have it every time. And when they don't have it, you get some pretty massive payoffs. But Saiyan has it. And with one card left in Viper's hand,
it is the best card to have in an empty hand.
Oh, indeed it is. But with one card left, this is a no-brainer for Saiyan.
Yeah. And honestly, the Solarium is higher value in Viper's deck just because he doesn't have Sea Giants. Honestly, Solarium a great reload and almost always hitting cheap stuff to play outside of Archville and Bomb.
Now, I'm curious if he needs to actually Solarium this turn, because if you life tap, you can expend both the cards. You only have 3 mana left over afterwards, and then going into the 6 mana turn, you can Solarium and realistically play every single card, even if they're all 2-cost cards.
That's true.
And then you get to, you know, if you just draw junky stuff you don't need to use, life tap again. Like, you get to maximize your life tap potential, because I think right now Viper's very interested in finding that Arc Villain Rafam, because things have kind of gone awry. But he's interested in an additional push here. So the Witchwood Imp you don't mind losing. Looking like Knife Juggler Direwolf Alpha. Keep chipping away.
So many possibilities. Almost out of time.
Debating the swing with the weapon because there's a Harrison Jones in Saiyan's lineup. Also, the implications of a second weapons project taking place. You would forego 2 damage in that spot.
I think for Viper, it's a matter of, I don't think I'm going to kill him. I may need to swing into something on board, like a Ziliax.
Yes, exactly.
To try and push something through. And then honestly, from there, I'm on the Archvillain Farm plan. Unless I draw just like runner good stuff. I'm thinking like just a bunch of 1-drops, Scarab Egg, and then Grim Rally. He really doesn't have a realistic ability to kill Saiyan.
Yeah, I mean, it would take some evil genius shenanigans, which definitely possible. Oh my.
Eternium Rover and Omega Devastator, reasonable, but in the matchup, you just want cheap stuff to be able to chip away at the board.
This is such a massive turn for Saiyan here as well. Being able to override with the Super Collider and have confidence in the Ziliax in the following turns, it just puts Viper into pressure to continuously develop.
Okay, well, Evil Genius is a good pickup. I think at this point you're looking for value generation, whether it's the Faceless Lackey that summons a 2-drop or Ethereal Lackey or double Ethereal Lackey.
Those are great right now.
Yeah. He just needs value at this point.
Yuck.
Oh, man, maybe Mortal Coil? Corruption could be a way to deny a few different things. It could buy you a turn to be able to go for a swing turn.
Yeah, I think I'd likely take Mortal Coil here because, again, the plan is just get to Arc Villain Rafam and hope shenaniganry takes place.
Yeah.
Viper's in a bad spot, and you know, he knew this was a possibility. This deck was meant to be strong versus some other stuff, and just suck it up versus Warrior. Just know that it's going to hurt sometimes.
Yep.
So many possibilities.
Spirit Bomb.
I think the nod there is Dynomatic exactly. If that card gets drawn from Just Saiyan, you have a way to clear it off and keep some development going.
Yeah, especially considering there's 2 natural copies still left in the deck, and Viper just saw an Omega Assembly, which Dynomatic is often an automatic choice against this type of deck.
Yeah, this is a major turn here as well.
Well, holding on to the weapon actually ends up being kind of decent just because he can deal with this.
Oh, Arc Villain, that's a perfect time to draw it.
Okay.
Is it true?
This is why it's in the deck.
Is it true, though?
For this matchup.
Finally, it's come up.
With this very specific scenario. He's at a healthy life total. He's got 3 cards in hand. Just Saiyan has expended a lot of resources to get there. It's going to come down to a deck full of random legendaries versus Control Warrior.
I'm going to be shocked if Viper does not play this Arc Villain Rafam. I don't know what he's cooking up.
So he can go with Spirit Bomb, kill off the Eternium Rover, hope there's a dead turn, and play it on an empty board. That's an option.
Try to generate tempo from it.
Try and generate tempo from it. Utilize the body instead of just the effect. It is a 7/8 with taunt after all.
I want to play it now because
I do want to play it now.
Of 3 reasons. Number 1, Saiyan's most powerful turns are approaching with 10 mana and Omega Devastator. Number 2, Saiyan hasn't played Dr. Boom yet, so that's an immense draw right now that has major implications.
So he's going to try and use it as a tempo tool. That Voidwalker could have been a random legendary.
Again, I think he just he's trying to do something.
Wow. So Dr. Boom plus Eternium Rover gives him a clear. Not super relevant, and I don't know if that Super Collider swing is entirely valuable.
I think the Super Collider swing is very valuable because I think Saiyan is considering, how do I lose this game? Probably Arc Villain Rafam shenaniganry. I think in Saiyan's spot, you don't have to do anything. You're at 33, you're looking at 2 damage, you just got a Dr. Boom online.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem playing the Eternium Rover. I don't have a problem holding it. Super Collider swing. There is a second Super Collider in the deck for Saiyan, so I think this is much more justifiable.
Also a second weapons project. All right, here we go.
Whoa. Whoa.
Emerus Glinda Crowskin. So Geppetto Joybuzz will actually pull 2 minions from the deck and set their attack and health and cost of 1. Then Glinda Crowskin gives your minions Echo. So Geppetto can pull 2 very high valuable legendaries from your deck, and then Glinda Crowskin can give either of those Echo to be able to play 4 of them in a single turn.
Whoa.
I don't know if that's going to be relevant, but it's possible. And Just Saiyan's value in his hand is quite low. He has to brawl for an emergency situation, but other than that...
Oh, boy. Viper's hand is looking absolutely beautiful right now.
Yeah, this is a Snap Geppetto.
Here's the thing.
What legendaries can give you immense value with Echo?
Another Emerus. I don't know. The thing I'm thinking about is that Viper's at 14.
Emerus, what?
Viper's at 14 right now. He has to find a way to not lose tempo in this game. Saiyan being on 2 cards means that should be one of his primary focuses right now. I think if this game goes on long enough, he's going to have plenty to end this game. And so I think that the tempo with Dr. Morrigan and having the swap out so that you don't lose the tempo in that immediacy is very important for 2 reasons. The first one, of course, is a thing like Brawl. The second one is he's staring at Discover a Mech right now, and you know that Omega Devastator is going to be high impact.
Yeah.
Also for Glinda Crowskin, the Echo...
they Echo for their own cost.
It sets the Echo cost back to the initial.
Yeah.
Dynomatic finds a natural Omega Devastator. Finds a Hecklebot. It hurts to forego discovery mechanisms in this position, though. Saiyan knows that he needs something desperate to happen. He knows that he has Brawl in hand. I think this is, even though Omega Devastator is very good right here, I think there's a lot of merit to discovering in this spot.
This is kind of why I didn't necessarily love the Spirit Bomb turn because Viper has very little health to work with.
Right.
Now, it did, let's say a Shield Slam came down and he kept pushing 4 damage anyway, especially with the Eternium Rover Ziliax. That could have been a pretty big deal. I'm going to go back and forth on that.
2 copies of Iron Beak Owl in the deck for Just Saying, so that is another important card that's in there. Kragwa not likely to have effect since, you know, your entire deck's legendaries at this point.
Yeah, and I don't think even like Ysera could give you the dream cards that could be copied from Kragwa, but I'm pretty sure with, even if you get like Swamp King Hagatha, since it's teaching the minions the spells, the minion is casting the spells. I don't know if that even gives you back spells from Kragwa.
I don't think it will, because it's that you cast this turn.
Yeah.
You cast specifically typically means that you paid the mana cost in some way. So the thing that for Viper is, because he's working with an unknown deck, what the heck do you do?
I have no idea.
I'm wondering about Dr. Morrigan trades. I'm wondering about Emerus duplication. Like, where does all this fit in, and how do you actually go about it? And for Viper, I think it's as simple as you have 10 mana, you have 3 reasonable-sized minions, you play Emerus, you value trade, you go face, and you try to keep tempo and then pressure Saiyan out as hard as possible. Because now these minions are outside of the range of just single Omega Devastator. The Omega Devastator has to attack into those minions in that situation as well.
Yeah.
That's a big deal long-term. And Viper actually may be interested in not playing Geppetto and not using Life Tap for a while just because his stuff is so large that what ends up happening is time is the facet that he needs.
Yeah. And this attack really tells you just how much Viper's game plan has changed. He's like, I'm not going to kill him.
Not yet.
Me killing him is not going to happen for a long time. I need to outvalue him and just hope that my deck has some just pretty fantastic legendary minions.
Right. You've kind of turned into like a big priest at this point, where you've hit the end game, you didn't have the super nuts early thing that happened, and you're just playing the big stuff you drew.
And he's got big stuff. Now,
yeah, you built a pretty bad big priest deck, I'll say, you know, with Kragwa and Glinda and whatnot. But you got some big stuff still.
Yeah. Because even the 1 mana minions pulled from Geppetto will will increase the original cost with Glinda on the Echo. Is there any other legendary minions that could have high impact with Glinda? Let's say it sticks. There's not really anything cheap. I'm thinking maybe Ziliax to try and buy you some life total.
Mukla maybe.
Mukla to fill up their hand, but even that is like...
You just get a bunch of 5/5s. Smart of Saiyan to wipe out the tempo swing. Not good.
No. Yeah, this is the Geppetto turn. I don't even know.
Whoa.
What?
Well, I'll tell you what. Deathwing on 1 mana is a weird situation. That is wacky. So it's a 1 mana 1/1. Keep that in mind. Geppetto makes it a 1 mana 1/1. How does Glinda with Deathwing work? Does it make the Echo? Does it actually echo it in your hand? Not that it's relevant. I'm just curious about the interaction.
Because the Echo card's discard at the end of its turn. So he would play Glinda.
But if Glinda dies during a minion's battle cry,
during the battle cry,
that's my point. Is there any other way that's relevant? Just something else to think about.
That comes down to order of operations, I guess. But now Viper's effectively at 8. Those Hecklebots,
they're a big deal.
Well, they might just be dead cards.
Well, see, I disagree. I think that Just Saiyans' plan right now is likely a fatigue plan. I don't think he's going to be able to eliminate everything, so he has to get Viper into fatigue, you know, in a sooner rather than later kind of scenario. And so when he's able to go wide on board like this, the Hecklebots just block damage while he starts pushing and setting that fatigue into a very realistic lethal in just a couple of turns. And so Viper with the deck full of legendaries right now, you know, legendaries are synergy style cards. They don't operate super well independently if your opponent's gaining tempo on you. Like Ziliax looks great here, but you're at 8, and that's like the only card you're playing if you play Ziliax.
You don't want to play Nat Pickle because honestly, you don't really want to draw anything additional. Now, there is a couple cards that could change that. I think Elysiana is the big one.
I'm curious if Viper needs to do something crazy here, like a Ziliax attack, Deathwing, Life Tap, and try to get something rolling again, because he's losing this board super hard right now. Pushing 12 damage is not of much interest to Viper right now, and he can't just play Glinda and say go, or he dies. The tempo that Saiyan generated this game is what's unlocking this potential. You know, you think back to the Spirit Bomb turn, you think back to the 7-8 being delayed, the fact that he took extra damage, took 8 damage with the Spirit Bomb turn. What would have changed if he had played his turn sooner? He needs to play Pagel just because he needs extra gas and he can't afford to life tap.
Yeah, honestly, that's his best course of action. Hope that one of these legendaries is something that allows him to go a little bit later in the game, and I honestly can only think of Elysiana as one of the cards that does that. Calicos. And then find, I don't know.
Yeah.
That belongs in a museum.
3 more cards coming for Saiyan. No shield slams, I think, have been picked up yet. Oh, 1 shield slam early.
1 shield slam was used. It's hard to think because he used a shield slam on a Void Walker.
Rightfully so.
And now there's a 12-12 Geppetto Joy Buzz on the board.
Quite interested in this trade idea here. I think you just push some damage face, but, you know,
well, he can
Viper gained a lot of HP that turn.
Yep.
Oh, I love that
So I think for Saiyan, it's definitely correct to leave up the Nat Pagel, start pushing the damage, and say, you know what? You got to kill me in like 4 or 5 turns. Whoa. That is insane. Tank 12 to kill Geppetto. What's the fear?
Keeper Sladra's not good. I don't know what the fear is, honestly. I mean, the one good thing about Keeper Saladris is it's 2 mana, so he can play Glinda Crowskin, Staladris.
Viper staring down 14 on the other side right now. With Beryllium Nullifier, you tick that up by 1. Saiyan is 1 damage off lethal. I really disagree with that trade last turn. This was a lethal setup. He doesn't know he's going to get laser, but you should account for it. $17 sounds great to me.
He might be thinking, is there anything from Glinda Crowskin?
Yeah, Ziliax would suck. You definitely don't want to see that, but
then he's got 4 cards left in his deck.
I'm not going to call it the greatest odds in the world.
You're at 42. Also, by pushing all this damage face, you eliminate life tap.
Yeah. Viper's at 1 if you go full face here. If you can beat me on 1 life while I got 42 and better minions in play, you got me.
Okay, then.
I'm totally okay with this. You get to make a bunch more 2/3s. You get to isolate the attack. You get to set Viper down to 3, which is pretty darn close.
Doesn't attack with Weapons Project.
Pagel draws. Nothing.
Well, he can copy Deathwing.
Viper, ironically, needed this Deathwing to be a 10-mana 12-12.
I wonder.
Well, he can get the
All right.
10 minutes.
All right. I found the out. You Captain Hook Tusk. You hope there's 2 Hook Tusks, and that the last card's Elysiana. Down to 3. Double all the dragons in your hand. It's not very good, but it's really cool.
What in the world? And you can tell this crowd doesn't care who wins or who loses.
That's just cool.
The only thing they care about, and this is lethal because he just Hecklebots out the last 2 minions. Just hype.
Viper on his side saw what it was, scoops it up.
Yeah.
And that means Saiyan is on a 2-0 lead. Rafam didn't deliver a win, but it delivered some excitement.
Those are the kinds of games we live for.
Shaman left for Just Saiyan, a control Shaman deck. It's built in the same vein, I would say, as the Warrior deck. Its goal is to eliminate the resources from aggressive decks. And as they're ground into the dust and there's nothing left, just slowly pick them apart with whatever janky minions you got left.
Yeah.
But Viper's got 2 decks that don't act that way coming up. He's got Miracle Rogue, he's got the Summoner Mage, and I think this one is going to boil down to whether or not Zoo Warlock can get it done.
It's going to be exciting. 2 decks that are good against Shaman, 1 deck that's abysmal against Shaman. Viper, though, one thing's for certain, he's on the ropes here. A spot in the semifinals on the line in this series. Can justsaiyan close it out? That's the big questions on our mind. But we're going to have to go to a quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we return, the conclusion to this quarterfinal here at the World Championship.
One night, I was called on to scry. But what is this symbol I spy? It's my own crystal ball. Yes, I'll answer the call. And the others will come by and by. That's right. We be calling a team in. The masters of plotting and scheming. By this candle a-glowing, I surely be knowing whose gold will be once more a-gleaming.
Some people just go by, okay, it's a mathematical problem. There's always one answer that's the right answer, the right call, the right decks. But figuring it out is not easy. And I'm probably one of the guys that wants to do something different, not just go with everyone expects, try to counter, try to beat what people bring.
Viper takes it 3-2.
A lot of people made like those statistics about who's gonna make it out of groups, who's gonna win and so on. And they just took HSV play, stats and decks and whatsoever, but playing control decks like Mage, Shadowbox Shaman and so on, if you play them well and you face the matchups you want to face, they are like way better compared to the statistics you're just gonna get by looking at ladder. I cannot bring the same stuff as everyone else and then expect to win. I have to do something different to overcome them.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Hearthstone World Championship. It's the final day of play here. At the end of the day, we will be crowning our 2019 World Champion. And we're currently in quarterfinal number 2 on the day. It's justsaiyan versus Viper. The winner of this match will go on to face Bunny Hopper in the semifinals. I'm TJ, once again joined by the Admiral. That's Admirable.
Hi.
And Viper down 2-0 in the series. And this Zoo Warlock deck not performing.
Yeah, it's kind of in a weird spot, actually. It's sitting at 1-5 game score in the tournament currently. And you might be wondering, well, how did he get out of groups if it's at 1-5? Well, the answer is he played against Roger for top 8. It was in the decider match. Roger's lineup was built as crazy as you could imagine. It was full anti-warrior. Like, actually full anti-warrior. So much so to the fact that he built one of the greediest Paladin decks I've ever seen and went, nah, I don't need consecration in here. I just want 2 more big things.
I want Nazari.
His main goal was just to beat Warrior as badly as possible. And against Viper, that wasn't a possibility. He looked at Viper's decks and said, wow, I have no way to beat Zoo Warlock with these decks. Ban it. Call it a day. Yep. Viper gets through with a deck in the top 8 so far, that has been an underwhelming performance for him, to say the least.
Now, game number 3 here, he's going to queue up the Mage. And honestly, if you look across Viper's lineup, against justsaiyan's Control Shaman, he's got 2 pretty decent matchups with both Miracle Rogue and the Summoner Mage. I honestly think these are decent. You can get on the board way too quickly before Hagatha's scheme can become too much of a big board swing. And it can just go pretty late with just so many board refills. And his Miracle Rogue deck is honestly built for the late game. Gadget Auctioneer, Double Wanted, the Violet Teachers, the Questing Adventurer. It's built to go for those big swings in the late game with Heistburn and Togwaggle being able to play multiple times with Togwaggle's scheme. So, if you're in Viper shoes, you're gonna queue up this Mage and this Rogue before the Zoo Warlock because it's your worst matchup and you want to try to get momentum on your side.
Yeah. I think, all things considered, Viper is pushed into the one spot he did not want to be in. And so anything that you can possibly attempt to gain an edge over Saiyan is something you should be doing right now.
Yep.
It is desperation time. The entire year's effort has poured down to these next 3 games for Viper.
Yeah. And if you look at his hand right now, I'm pretty sure those are just like the 6 highest win rate cards in the deck, minus the Witch's Brew. But Thunderhead Zap, Double Farsight,
Coin.
Double Hagatha Scheme, yeah, and Coin. Lickham is also good, maybe not so much in this matchup. But having Double Hagatha Scheme in his opening hand just gives him so many options to kind of bide his time, wait for the right time to go for that big board swing and try and push it late game.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I really want to note about Viper's Mage deck as we've lost a monitor feed for just a moment. We apologize for that, on our end anyway. We have it back, though. If you lost it there for a minute, I apologize.
If you didn't, then again, we apologize.
Yeah, for just making a dumb-sounding comment then. Viper's Mage deck, you know, pretty packed to the brim, but not in, like, the most greedy way imaginable. Really, I'd say one of the greediest choices in the deck was Archmage Arugal, which is meant to be more of a tech choice for mirror matches than anything else. She played on turn 2. It lives very often, and oftentimes it'll take 2 turns to take down from the opponent via a couple hero powers. On the Shaman side for Just Saiyan, it is trimmed a little bit more towards beating aggro decks. There's only 1 copy of Hex that's in here. There's no Swamp Queen Hagatha at the top end for some crazy shenanigans, and there's no Elysiana to go beyond the fatigue point. You would have to have something crazy like a Discovery from Blazing Invocation from Hagatha. It is a long-winded road if you're ever going to make it to that point. So I think for Viper, it's about exhausting the resources from Saiyan and then having really the last threat. I think the last threat potential is a very realistic measure. And when it comes to card advantage battles, I think that's where Viper absolutely shines from a control aspect.
Yeah, gonna just go ahead and voodoo doll this down. Really only a couple targets in the deck for that. It's the Thunderheads and basically the Walking Fountains later on in the game. And if you don't have a board when he plays a Walking Fountain, you're not in a great position anyway.
It's a nice spot here for Saiyan, though. Able to get the board down to just the lone Archmage Vargoth here. Viper has almost no way to actually take care of that card, and that means Saiyan's going to be looking at a double Farsight turn thanks to the Vargoth.
Yeah.
The life total for him pretty pliable right now as he has the 1 Witch's Brew. There's a second one in the deck. Not worried about the life total at all for Saiyan.
Yep. Viper here, this Book of Specters could pick up a Mountain Giant that would be playable this turn as long as he doesn't discard spells.
Yeah, it also sets up for the Twilight Drake into the Astromancer. So the pressure here going to be coming for Just Saiyan. So these next 2 draws for the Farsight, I think pretty critical.
Yep. Picks up Hagatha. Good to have early on. The 3 damage often doesn't have a significant impact on these made boards, but it's all about finding the X factor, finding those additional spells from any minion you play.
Lightning Storm at 0 is a lot better than Lightning Storm at 3.
Almost everything at 0 is better than something else at 3.
What about sandwiches?
You got me. Pretty much anything edible is better at 3 than it is at 0. Astromancer seems like a very strong play here, but he does have a way to deal with the Vargoth.
What to do? What to do?
And that can be pretty threatening.
Yeah, it can be, but Astromancer is just so good here. Like, if Saiyan finds himself in a spot where he has to just go wide on board, Viper's just going to keep playing big stuff and chew through it.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about it is, those turns for Saiyan are meant to simply occupy time from Viper. Like, Rain of Frogs, for instance, in this spot, a lot of 2-4s enter play at that point. But what ends up happening is Viper just develops into it. So the question for Viper on that counterattack is, how much do you develop into it? Because all those 2-4s would be meant to protect him to set up for stuff like Hagatha's scheme. So when Saiyan sees the 214 taunt show up in this spot, this is not exactly comfort territory.
Yeah, and honestly, you mentioned Rain of Toads, and I think that's honestly the only spell that's worth repeating left in the deck. He's already played both Farsights, which is kind of, it's the Jin draw when you have Archmage Vargoth. That's the one that you honestly probably put the Archmage Vargoth in your deck to begin with. Rain of Toads is the second, and like you mentioned, casting Rain of Toads twice just overloads you for 6.
Yeah.
And Viper develops into it. He gets to make value trades on the following turn, can Conjurer's Calling. Also, it does protect your life total, but it plays into your own double Hagatha scheme.
Yes.
So honestly, it just seems...
It's kind of good, though, right? Because the Rain of Frogs just delay Viper at that point. They say you can either value trade now and take some little chip damage, or you can let me do my thing, and I get to develop beyond that. Like, it's a weird delay system that it's coming to effect. So Saiyan, clearly concerned about life total at this point. Gonna go with Walking Fountain. And coin gets duplicated. Heck yeah.
All right, well, here's the turn. How far will Viper commit? He's got Khadgar plus double Conjurer's Calling.
So my instinct would tell me that Conjurer's Calling for sure onto the Mogushan Enforcer at some point at 2/6 taunt. I want to save Khadgar for
the
post AoE situations, though. Yes, I think that like Khadgar Astromancer is a big threat to Saiyan because it develops the board. Plus, it threatens to have Khadgar generate the additional value. I'd say one of the weirdest times to use Khadgar is when you're already super ahead. When you're coming from nothing to a point, or when your opponent doesn't have a way in their deck to handle what you would present. Sure, Khadgar's great, but when your opponent has Hagatha's schemes, they have AoE cards, they have a ton of healing, I think oftentimes that using a Khadgar to supplement the board position you already have is a trap.
It's a great point. You don't want to overextend these cards. And Viper thinking right now, what's more valuable? 7 drops or 8 drops?
7s. I'll just say 7s.
Honestly, 8 drops are really good.
Yeah, they are.
But
he can rip it twice. I mean, it has Twin Spell. Oh, boy! Oh, boy!
Those Hagatha schemes are at 8.
Oh, boy!
And gets to ping. Just Saiyan's down to 11.
8 drops. I take it back. 8 drops are better. 8 drops are better. I'm convinced.
Now, he does have Hagatha Scheme plus Lightning Storm, which I believe these Hagatha Schemes are at 8. Now, Grom will permanently gain... They're at 8. So now Grom permanently gains the health buff from the Stormwind champion, so it still would be at 3. Now, this Grom has the chance to live. And if it lives, Just Saiyan may be in a situation where he has to Witch's Brew just back up to survive Grom plus ping. Oh, what?
Well, it dealt 8 damage.
It dealt 8 damage. Yeah, I'm just dumb.
You were thinking 6.
I was thinking 6.
Because everything on the board was 6 health.
Everything else was at 6, yeah.
It's okay. Your head trapped
But,
you.
I mean, having to play this Lightning Storm is a big deal because that means Hagatha's Scheme is the only other thing he has in his hand to deal with this board state.
Saiyan is considering the Hecklebot to go with the Lightning Storm.
I don't think that's wise. There's the Ysera in the deck. There's a lot of big stuff.
The Mountain Giants is really the big one.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff in the deck is small, too. There's Messenger Ravens, there's Mind Control Text, there's Voodoo Doll, there's Khadgar, Fire Tree Witch Doctor, Archmage. There's a lot of little things in the deck. And he wants to be able to develop the Hecklebot in a profitable spot. And here, this is what the Khadgar is for the big reload. This is why Saiyan kept both of the Hagatha schemes early on. That's probably the most important card in the matchup. And so now that Saiyan has seen a Mountain Giant, you are very interested in using the Hecklebot because the Hecklebot can potentially pull the other Mountain Giant. However, if it pulls Ysera, it's a bad spot. So just hang on, take your time, find the way to handle the pressure.
My calculations are flawless.
It's a bad 7, so let's roll it again. That's a... Whoa! That's a good 7. That's a hex, though.
The Gunspire makes things very awkward.
The Gunspire is very interesting because Viper has hero power. The mage hero power.
But the Archmage tonight has to die. One, because Just Saying knows that there's a spell in hand.
Still from the random generation of Fire Tree
Still from the
Witch
random
Doctor.
generation. Also, Viper has ways to generate spells. He's got another Fire Tree Witch Doctor. He still has a Book of Specters in the deck. He has Ysera.
Ooh, Saiyan's taking some damage here as well. I don't mind this. I think this is actually a really great use of life total for Saiyan here. He recognizes that unless Viper has a random spell that that actually deals him direct damage, that he's in the clear here. Sunfury Protector for the the Gunspire.
There's a lethal potential here.
There is.
Take off as much health as possible, increase the chances. Oh, and the Dragon Maw Scorcher.
That's lethal! That's actually guaranteed!
That's guaranteed!
Holy smokes! The Gunspire!
Wow! What? So the Dragon Maw Scorcher damages your own minion, so he made... Now, was there a chance that it hits the...
So here's the thing.
There's a chance that it hits the totem.
If it hits the totem, there's a 4 health thing on board. The hero power then deals 3 damage. If it hits face, Saiyan goes to 3. And so then the Cinderstorm
would have to hit face 3 times.
And so
it wasn't guaranteed.
When I said the guarantee,
it was after it hit the Thunderhead.
In my head, I assumed it hit Thunderhead. I don't know why I assumed that. I just assumed it did. So it wasn't guaranteed at all. I apologize for that. That's pretty crazy, though.
It was 66.6% chance because there was 2 good targets for the Gunspire and 1 bad target. It would have to hit face or the Thunderhead in order for lethal to happen. But honestly...
Well, all the varieties can present lethal, just the Cinderstorm has to get lucky. The Thunderhead, though, is the Jin hit.
Yeah, or face.
Gives me no idea for a deck, though. Dragon Warrior with Gunspire and Sunfury Protector.
Despite 2 ways to deal with giant boards from the Conjurer's Calling, it still had gas to finish the game.
It's just such a powerful card. It is the key card of the deck. I love it in there. When I asked Viper on the first day I saw him about Conjurer's Calling and mulliganing with the deck, he told me there's not a match I consider mulliganing Conjurer's Calling in.
Yep. And you can see why right there. So Viper stays alive, puts a point on the board, Just Saying still up 2-1. Which means we still got a lot of series left to play. Before we jump into game number 4, we're going to go to a quick break, but don't go anywhere. More here from the HCT World Championship right after this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the HCT Fall Championship.
We're going to have 8 representatives that will know at the World Championship, and every single time you tack 4 more onto that, it just seems like it gets more and more stacked. I mean, I know we continue to say it, but it just always feels like it's true. In this championship, I think there's a few standout competitors in the field that I'm really looking forward to see compete this weekend.
Great way to finish any Hunter game is with a King Crush. A smile and a nod from Aku. He knows he has lost the series. Saiyan starts these champs off the right way, and to be honest, not the most unexpected way. Everyone has counted on Saiyan to get the job done. Is people's pretty much favorite to win the whole tournament, to be completely honest.
It feels pretty bittersweet. Aku and I have been good friends for 3 years or so, and you know, the one time that we make it to champs, we happen to make it there together, which is great. We're super excited for each other, and then you find out first matches against one of your friends. I'm happy with my play, but overall, still, yeah, pretty bittersweet.
Job done. You win this time.
But Sinto concedes, and that's going to be Bloodyface winning his group. And getting a few days off for it as well. A bit of a comfortable start for him. Day 1 of the Fall Championship. Well, we'll try maybe knock on the door.
And with the Grumble on board, Language Hacker knows that has 0% failure rate, so he's not even going to wait it out. And Blood Trail, sir, I think there was some real moments there where Blood Trail, you know, understood at a very high level how he was going to dig his way out of some tough spots.
Hello everyone and welcome to the final day of the HCT Fall Championship. It's going to be a big one today as we decide which 4 players are going to be going to the World Championship.
Time Meow was the first to reverse sweep this tournament yesterday to make it to the top 8. And now Bloody Face able to take 3 in a row. And you can see the disappointment on Time Meow's face as Bloody Face will take this series 3-2 and be our first World Championship competitor from the fall season.
It's the best feeling ever. It still hasn't completely set in because of all the implications of this. You know, I can like probably get sponsors and can play Hearthstone full time.
And Blood Trail is going to 3-0 Tyler and find himself headed to the World Championship.
非常开心啊，因为打个游戏就可以打到出国，很不可思议。
Bonemare or Hellfire were his options, and Saiyan has fulfilled the prophecy. 2 or 3 months of absolute dominance paid out in the most fitting way possible, and Sinto himself, at the end of it all, is a good guy and a gracious loser, and hands over the World Championship spot to Just Saiyan.
Renman fought hard, but in the end, Language Hacker ruled the day.
Congratulations, the last European has fallen and 3 Americas players. None bigger the moment than right now with Language Hacker being the final player to advance to the semi-finals. Congratulations.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm good. I feel really good after making it to the World Champions. The words are hard to formulate right now. I'm just ecstatic. There's a lot of stuff you have to go through. You're already like through the best players in your region, and now you're fighting against the best players in the world to try to secure a spot.
And here it is just the march of the dinosaurs until Language Hacker can close out this game. Bloody Face, he has nothing he can do to deal with this swing.
Yeah, that is a Devil Sore omelet. Bloody Face concedes. Language Hacker is your 2018 Fall Champion.
Yeah, I was nervous. Bloody Face was a good opponent, and I'm glad it panned out the way it did.
On behalf of Blizzard Entertainment, it is my honor to present to you this trophy, $50,000, and the title of HCT Fall Championship. Congratulations.
Welcome back, everybody, to the HCT World Championship. Currently in quarterfinal number 2, which is Just Saiyan versus Viper. And Viper was able to put a point on the board. But honestly, I'm still worried about him in this series, Admirable.
Yeah, the Warlock is it's a big question mark for Viper over the course of this event. I don't really know how it's going to get a win against this Shaman without some pretty fortunate circumstances coming about, because Saiyan has teched the Shaman deck to be about as anti-aggro as possible. Now, there are some cards that are misses in there. You know, he mostly had aimed what looked to me at Rogue. The double acidic Swamp Ooze that's in there. Those are misses against Viper's Zoo deck. But I'll tell you what, the hand from Saiyan, it's got a Hagatha scheme in it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, that's enough with just some stuff to get it done.
Honestly, if you look over the deck list, you'd be hard-pressed to find a lot of misses.
Yeah.
Almost every card in his deck, I can think being very impactful against Zoo. Lickum, fantastic early on. Urshock, great for Scarabag. Zap, obviously fantastic. Thunderhead with all that stuff that I just mentioned. As long as it has Overload, great to fight for the board.
Yeah.
Hagatha's Skein in opening hand, one of the key cards. Rain of Toads buys you time. Ziliax heals you up. Walking Fountain is a stabilization tool. Hagatha the Witch, the nuts. Double Hagatha Scheme.
Double Scheme, Coin, Hecklebot's great against this deck because there are no Sea Giants in it.
And if you pull out Archvillain Rafam, even though it's a big thing to deal with, that doesn't give Viper the out of being able to play that late game.
True, but Viper has Flame Imp on turn 1. This is the premier one you're looking for, and Saiyan can't answer it. 5 damage coming this turn. We're looking at Evil Genius on the following and seeing what Viper can put together. He's got to giddy up, though.
Yeah, and, you know, there's a couple of big problems that I see with the deck. You mentioned it, no Sea Giant to try and avoid those Hagatha Scheme big board swings. There's no Leroy Jenkins to go for that end game burst and force Just Saiyan to have board removal plus Witch's Brew to stabilize.
Does have 2 Soulfires, though.
There is 2 Soulfires. but can he get to the point where he puts Saiyan low enough for that to be impactful?
I think he can. And the reason I think he can is because he's got the Lackey immediately. The Lackeys are a huge deal when it comes to being able to apply pressure. You add another Flame It to that. Viper's got some serious gas here. You know, he's going to end up putting Saiyan to a test of what you got. And that's how Zoo decks work. They are inherently burn decks at the end of the day. You often find that you will shut your eyes, you'll play your stuff, you'll hit him in the face, and you hope it works.
Now, this is actually a pretty big turn because he wants to check for the Lackeys first, but if he doesn't find a way to deal with the acidic Swamp Ooze, he wants to give himself the best chance to kill it, and does find Kobold Lackey. Also Goblin Lackey. That's honestly, I guess, the same amount of power in the grand scheme of things. The Kobold Lackey just gives him the benefit of playing around Lightning Storm slightly by keeping the Mecharoo online and having a minion afterwards.
Yep, so this is going to be the scariest turn of the game here for Saiyan. How much more damage is going to get tacked on?
Lick him. No overload yet, but he can prime the board for a Hagatha scheme by getting rid of the Mecharoo.
Yeah, and honestly, Saiyan should likely be playing the Lick of this turn and wiping out the front half of the Mecharoo, just in case Viper runs into to a Grim Rally style of turn. You want to be able to mitigate that as much as possible. You have a Hagatha scheme set, and this also cuts into the Grim Rally turn as well, where you just trim the number of attacks off the board. This actually is likely a wiser plan. So Viper looks like he's pretty interested in hanging on to a Goblin Lackey and Scarabag drawn.
Incredible. If you expect Coin Hagatha scheme, you saw keeps from Saiyan. Keeps from Saiyan, now, we talked about it earlier, there's so many good hits in the deck. So the keep could be anything.
Well, it wasn't Zap.
It wasn't Zap.
So we know it's not that.
It could be Thunderhead.
It wasn't Lightning Storm, so we know it's not that.
It could be Thunderhead, Earthshock.
I don't think it could be Earthshock.
I don't think it could be Earthshock. So pretty much, you can narrow it down to pretty much Hagatha's scheme. And if that's the case, this Scarabag is very valuable, especially since Saiyan's not overloaded. And Zap would be the only card that could overload him or deal with the Scarabag and play Hagatha's scheme next turn with the coin. Very smart play. Yes,
Saiyan
not the most
13.
efficient way to damage, but it is the most efficient way to protect your board.
Yeah, that tells me Hecklebot's in order here. Hecklebot's going to be scary. There is just a lot of misses in Viper's deck with Hecklebot. 3-8 taunt versus this board is looking mighty good right now.
But let's say you pull out a Magic Carpet.
That sucks.
So the two Magic Carpets, Direwolf Alpha, not bad. This is a big pull. Magic Carpet!
Wow. Wow.
What?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're looking at 12 damage from Viper next turn. He's actually got 12 total damage. He gets to push through the Hecklebot with 7 attack on board and Soulfire in hand. A single point of damage ends the game for Viper.
He can still tap into Abusive Sergeant. Well, he actually, no, he can't because he needs the mana to be able to play the 1-mana minions to trade over the Hecklebot.
But the thing is, if you kill the Hecklebot and you still have a Scarabag and you still have the Mecharoo, what does the scheme do? Doesn't do anything. Your opponent... I think Viper's just be setting Saiyan to 1 here. Saiyan, you figure it out.
It's a lot of resources expended, honestly.
That's what aggro decks are for.
Just play all your stuff.
I think there's a big justification for just squeezing out some extra life taps here to try to find that second Soulfire eventually, but I think this is the correct call, far and away. Play all your stuff, deal all your damage, go face, and say you figure it out. Brew heals for 12, so you go to 13. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the other side. So then 3 damage ends the game.
It's his only play because with Hagatha's scheme, he dies every time.
Every time.
Rain of Toads, but he can't attack. Magic Carpet is still on the board. Soulfire ends the game immediately.
Oh.
And Direwolf Alpha.
Oh, Direwolf Alpha, I believe, does end the game.
He also has the potential to put the Direwolf Alpha next to the Scarab Egg, trade it in. This has to be lethal.
That's the thing. So it's Direwolf Alpha directly in the center right now. 4 goes over, and then you have 3 go over one of the Toads. You then play Knife Juggler, and then you trade in the Scarab Egg, and then you have lethal, guaranteed. 100% this is lethal. Vipers forcing game number 5. The double Hagatha scheme in the opening hand, neither of them ever get cast due strictly to the amount of pressure that Viper was able to apply.
Wow.
And remember when I disagreed with you earlier about Archthief Rafam? That's why I disagree. When your opponent's a good deck that's gonna clear your board, you know what you do? You beat them up anyway.
You play all your stuff, you hit him in the face.
I get the reasoning, I disagree. Viper, that's twice now in matchups that are poor, just overwhelming pressure has gotten the job done.
And even with that win, that only moves his total score with Warlock up to 2 and 5.
But now, Viper is at a massive advantage in the scenario. So think about the momentum argument. Viper was down 2 games, he queued up Mage, he won the game. Does that plant the doubt? Maybe so. Queue up the Warlock. Saiyan then knows he has to win that game because his 5th game is against the Miracle Rogue from Viper, which Saiyan has almost no way to handle.
No,
almost 0.
There is a few good ways to handle it. I have played this matchup a lot. Couple of key things. Hecklebot is the biggest one. Hecklebot pulling Heisper and Togwaggle takes out the primary win condition against control decks for Viper. It is a big deal.
You got to kill the Heisper in that turn. Sometimes.
Sometimes you have to kill the Heisper in that turn. But also even just getting that out of the way so that you're forcing a Shadow Step also is a big deal. So there are some ways to fight back.
Togwaggle scheme though.
Togwaggle scheme, yes, if you pull early on in the game, if you pull the Heisper and Togwaggle with Hecklebot, there's still Shadow Step, there's still Togwaggle scheme. But that forces Viper to kind of change the overall game plan. Now, there are ways for Viper to kind of get the aggression going early on. There's Questing Venture, there's Edwin Van Cleef. We've seen Edwin Van Cleef being unchecked against Shaman win games. We saw A8 do it yesterday with an 8-8 Van Cleef on turn 3 that was never dealt with. Or even on turn 2 that was never dealt with.
Yep.
That's always on your mind. The Questing Adventure, if you don't have an Earth Shock or if you don't have the Hex for it, that can get out of control and win games. There's a lot of ways that it can happen. But I do think Viper is a pretty big favorite in this matchup. And just to give you a breakdown of the deck, you can see Gadgetzan Auctioneer in the deck. This is not a Tempo Rogue. This is a Miracle Rogue. Your goal is to draw through your deck and go for big turns, whether that's Edwin, whether that's Questing, or whether that's to wait until the end of the game to play Heisper and Togwaggle with Togwaggle scheme, go for multiple Wondrous Treasures in a single turn to draw the Heisper and Togwaggles that you shuffled in your deck and get a ton of treasures. Get summon legendaries, do all that stuff, and then one golden kobold, to turn all of your 0-mana Heisper and Togwaggles into legendaries at the very end if you need it. It is one of the biggest value swings you could ever imagine in a game of Hearthstone is that combination right there.
Yep, that combination requires time. And that to me was the brilliance of the deck building with Viper in this one. If you're not banning Warrior and you expect control decks to be there, time is what you're going to get with this deck.
Yep. And I was probably about an hour before the show started. Just Saying and Viper were waiting for something. I don't know what they were waiting for, but I was talking to them a little bit, and I asked them, who's favorite in the series? They said, we have no idea. They said, we're just going to play our cards and see what happens. And honestly, that's kind of the attitude you have. But I was like, your Rogue deck's been doing pretty well, and I've been playing it online, and I like it. And he said, it doesn't lose to anything. That's what he said.
Now, that being said, that's Viper piloting it. Perhaps one of the most exceptionally skilled Miracle Rogue players ever in the game.
Yep.
1-mana Hecklebot.
Okay.
With a 4-mana Hex. I mean, you mentioned the importance that card could bring. And it just seems like every time we start to mention something, it's been starting to happen in this series.
Yeah. But there's a lot of hits on it.
I'm now worried for Viper.
So
nothing's even happened yet. I'm still just worried.
If you can deal with whatever comes out on the other side, there's actually a lot of value you get from Hecklebot just in general. You pull Leroy, one, it reduces the potential for Leroy Shadow Step for lethal. It also, there's another combination that you can do with High Spear and Togwaggle, where you get the Wondrous Wand, multiple copies of Wondrous Wand by Shadow Stepping it, and then you play Leroy Jenkins when your deck is empty, Togwaggle Scheme, play the Wondrous Wands to get Leroy's, and OTK your opponent. It doesn't happen as often, but it is a possibility. But Hecklebot can also hit Gadgetzan Auctioneer if you can deal with it right away. It reduces the draw. It can hit Questing or Edwin. If you can deal with it right away, it reduces the potential for a blowout. A lot of scenarios.
I'd be curious to see if Saiyan is more interested in killing a lackey or killing a bigger minion. So to me, that's really something to note. He's chosen to kill the bigger minion here instead of the lackey. Something to pay attention to.
Also, another thing to pay attention to is how often Saiyan totems up. Totem up can be a liability in some cases. One, especially with Viper's deck, it gives wanted targets, which is, you don't always present wanted targets, and forcing Viper to go for a suboptimal line of play can be a big deal. The second one is backstab for a combo activator. If Viper doesn't have a combo activator in his hand, or one that's higher value than backstab, it can be tough to combo for Evil Miscreant.
Yep.
So,
Wanted, of course, 3 damage, and if it kills the minion, add a coin to your hand.
Yes. And so forcing Viper on awkward turns where he has to want it or backstab his own minions, or forcing him to, you know, just deviate from his optimal game plan. Do totems really present that much value?
Give me a quest.
Oh boy. Viper has spotted a play that is very dangerous for Saiyan.
Okay.
Oh boy, Saiyan is in trouble. That scheme is on 2, I believe. If that scheme is on 3, you're absolutely playing it and killing a questing adventurer, but that questing adventurer right now, that's not dying.
And on average, Viper's going to be playing a card a turn, you better believe it. Which means that it will outpace the Hagatha scheme. Saiyan will be forced to find an additional way to deal with it. And I love the play from Viper last turn. He could have held on to Edwin. But a 6/6 is very threatening, and you're almost always going to force some type of removal from Saiyan. Getting out that Hex meant that he was 100% able to go for a questing this turn if he picked up anything that let it get out of range of what you could assume is the average Hagatha scheme at this point. Yes, if it was in his opening hand, it would have been 5. But he saw all the pitches from Just Saying in the mulligan. It's very likely he wouldn't have Hagatha scheme, so it's very likely that if he had drawn one, it would be less than 4 damage.
Oh, nothing. Another Shadow Step. Viper is about to run away with the game.
This is the ultimate feeling as a Miracle Rogue player. When you stick a questing adventurer...
He's got Shadow Step Mana Cyclone.
Oh my goodness!
You could want it?
So, Mana Cyclone, obviously, Battle Cry for each spell you've cast, add a random mage spell to your hand.
So you could wanted the frog, you could then coin, you could then Shadow Step the Mana Cyclone, and play it. So that's 2 extra spells it gives you there. I wonder when that stuff comes, that just makes the questing adventure huge too. That's not counting like mage spells you could get, like Arcane Missiles, the Tome of Intellect, like random, like magic trick. There's all sorts of cheap mage spells that make sense here.
That would be 3 spells because you play the Wanted, the Shadow Step, and the Coin.
You can also just Shadow Step this back to your hand and wait till you're going to go off.
So you get 1 random mage spell. Frostbolt!
Frostbolt! Viper clearly upset, but I believe this is only a missed dagger attack.
Yep.
That's the least of your worries right now, bud.
I mean, when you're on this type of stage, even if you have a huge lead, any misstep, you feel it.
Sure, but take a look. If the questing didn't die last turn, and it didn't die immediately right now, it's not dying.
Evil Miscreant, a good pickup. So this is a almost clear, aside from the Miscreant, because he can zap plus the Lickum. Now he's at 7, but he does have Witch's Brew.
He's down to 7 against a Miracle Rogue. Viper had lethal outs right there.
Eviscerate. I think that's it, but still, lethal outs nonetheless.
Shadow Step is sometimes lethal out. Sap was pretty darn close.
He had used both Shadow Steps at that point.
Correct.
Which is actually a big deal for the late game. Shadow Step allows you to do much more unfair things with Heist Bear and Togwaggle, because getting a Heist Bear and Togwaggle back to your deck at 4 mana allows you to play it. If you had a Lackey on the turn last turn, you can play both I assume Wonder Swans are both treasures in the same turn with no preparations. Now having double prep in the deck still gives him options to do all that stuff. But you have to keep track of those 4 0-mana power spells, preps, and Shadow Steps when you're referring to all those late game scenarios.
It's a weird spot here from Viper.
He wants to build a board, so if Just Saying goes for a Witch's Brew turn, he's got something to fight.
Well, you gosh darn better believe he's here for a Witch's Brew turn.
He's rolling into Hagatha or Walking Fountain, so the options are there. I mean, we still got a game on our hands.
I mean,
this one is far from over.
It's true, but now I look at that missed dagger attack, and I think about the sequencing on Mana Cyclone, where you could have, maybe perhaps done a little bit more. Miscreant drawing, major pickup though.
Not the best options, I would think. Ethereal Lackey is the obvious best choice, I believe, in this particular version of Rogue.
Yeah, and now that's the second Miscreant. So Viper, if he's going to execute any Heist Bear and Togwaggle shenanigans, it means that one of these lackeys is permanently in hand.
He does have an
Evil Cable. Oh, he has 2 copies of Evil Cable. Excuse me.
Evil Cable Rat. So you can see where the idea for his deck is. He's got double Wanted and 2 Evil Cable Rats. Compare that to Bunny Hopper's Rogue list. Now they practiced together but settled on different lists. He's got 1 copy of Evil Cable Rat and 1 copy of Wanted. Viper is more all in on this particular strategy, where I believe Bunny Hopper went for more of the Burgle package in that mid-game and no Violet Teachers. And honestly, this is a big decision whether or not to play one of these lackeys, just because of how high value they are with how the deck works.
Upgrading the 3/3 in consideration of exactly Hagatha. Wants to have the highest chance for the most minions to live on board. And so now Saiyan presented an opportunity. I think Hagatha is often going to be superior,
because then you can follow it up with Walking Fountain. But the problem is there's a Violet Teacher on board.
That's true, but one of the things I'm considering is mainly being able to swing back against a Gadgetzan Auctioneer. But the Walking Fountain, when Viper only just has a couple cards left, does offer, I think, pretty interesting potential. Where if Viper draws removal, super interested in using it immediately. So for instance, Viper really wants to eviscerate this Walking Fountain. But he also wants to Wanted it. That sets up for the Auctioneer next turn. Saiyan, I think, was trying to bait out maybe an Eviscerate in that spot.
Viper has 1 Lackey left in the deck. A single extra copy of Evil Cable Rat, that's 1 Lackey generation. He's going off with Gadgetzan Auctioneer next turn, I'm pretty sure, regardless of what his draw is.
It's one of the reasons that I think the Walking Fountain might have been inferior. You know, you look at a turn like that, the Walking Fountain bought some time, but it ended up in the exact same spot where you just Hagatha again. This could have been Hagatha last turn with a Walking Fountain on this one.
All right, time to go. No sap target, so that's dead. Has another Eviscerate, has backstabs.
Preparation.
Wanted. Can't play the Wanted though. Yep.
Down to 2 mana.
I'm ready to learn.
Oh,
Eviscerate
boy.
again.
I'm ready to learn.
Togwaggle drawn. Saiyan down to 9. Make it 8. Needs some help.
Acidic Swampus can get him spells. Farsight can draw into Lightning Storm. Earth and Might is dead.
I honestly think that Saiyan may have let this slip away on the order of Hagatha and the Walking Fountain. Walking Fountain, all it did was buy some life, which is what it was going to do the next turn. I say that, of course. I'm not considering damage opportunities.
Yeah, well,
the Walking Fountain does break a lot of the damage opportunities strictly.
But I don't think there was anything that killed him. Now, there was a couple combination of cards like Leroy plus a couple of Eviscerates.
Yeah, exactly.
But it would need multiple combinations of cards and picks up Rain of Toads.
So Rain of Toads does look like it actually fends off a lethal blow here, and you get to Earthshock the Auctioneer?
I must decide.
It's really his only line of play. That's all that saves him, and the Earthshock is just there to try and stop this chain from Viper. And you can see a little bit of a wince from Viper there.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
So Ziliax and Backstab. He doesn't have enough damage to push through. He has 11 on board, 12 with the dagger.
He gets
and 17 with Ziliax plus Backstab. He does have all the breakpoints because of the one attack to get through. So that's 12, so he would push 5 through, so he'd put him at 3. Or he draws cards. Put him at 3 or draw cards.
He's waiting a long time if he's going to draw cards. I know how these turns work.
Looking for Sap?
Sap!
Sap! Is that enough?
That's game!
I'm ready to learn.
Is it? Is he 1 damage off?
Oh my, no. I think he is 4, 5, 6. He's 2 damage off.
2 damage off.
Why in my head do they always have infinite mana in these scenarios?
If he had Phantom Knives, it would have been lethal. If he was able to play Phantom Knives or drew a preparation into Phantom Knives. But he's at 2. Just Saying has no healing in the hand right now. Needs Walking Fountain or Witch's Brew to survive. Electra not enough, but still has the opportunity to pick up the random spells from the Hagatha. Only has 7 mana because he ran a Tones last turn, so I'm thinking he needs to pick up Lightning Storm.
Path dimly lit.
Hope that it rolls high, and hope that Viper doesn't have a single point of damage in hand.
You could pick up Electra. You could pick the Lightning Storm up off the Electra.
And then it clears both boards, but then it double overloads you. That's the problem. And he needs a second out. He needs runner outs. Hex isn't good enough.
It's going to have to be. For Saiyan, it has to be. And that means Viper has enough damage to end it. The Ziliax, the Phantom Knives, however you want to slice it. The quest continues for Viper and the World Championship as he defeats Saiyan after going down 2-0, completes the reverse sweep, and moves on to the top 4.
What a series. Zoo Warlock, I didn't think it was going to get through. After all that was done, after he lost both of his first 2 games to Zoo Warlock, I thought that there is no way he gets that deck through. Aggroed him down, stayed calm. Brilliant play throughout the last 2 games.
And wow.
And now he goes on to face longtime friend and practice partner, Bunny Hopper. Nearly identical lineups with a few different tech inclusions in some of their decks. And they even said before the tournament took place that they knew, because of the way everything was set up, that they would probably have to eliminate each other before they got to the finals. and they wouldn't be upset about it. They would be happy that they made it that far.
Yeah. This is just a fantastic performance for that lineup. I mean, you can see the brilliance behind the deck building and just how strong of players they are and a technical aspect as well. You know, my heart has to go out to Just Saying in this one. He has had the run of a lifetime in competition this year. He was #1 in points in the region. His teammate Muzzy ended up qualifying on points at #2 in the region because Saiyan was able to qualify through a championship for the World Championships, which took precedent over that point spot in there. And that is just a massive amount of work that's done to that one. So my hat's off to him. Top 8, gonna have to be good enough for this one, but Viper, holy smokes. This guy now, 2 championships, both of them performed well. World Championships, he's here in the top 4. The only person who can take him down before the finals is the person that helped build the lineup with him in that regard. That is just an insane accomplishment.
Yeah, just fantastic performance from Viper, and we'll be seeing him later on in the semifinals. But that concludes our second quarterfinal of the day. Still 2 more quarterfinals, the semis, and of course the finals, where we're gonna crown a champion. Before we jump into the next match, we are gonna have to go to a quick break, and we do have a special interview lined up with America's Grandmaster player Amnesiac coming afterwards, so don't go anywhere. Plenty more here from the World Championship right after this.